Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at yet another 2023 Collect Day release. There are quite a few in this year's lineup, but we are starting to dwindle. We are definitely getting close to the final few, but this time we've got another beautiful herbivore as we have the Hadrosaurus. And this one looks really nice as well. I don't think there is a figure that can be even remotely considered bad the entire year for Collect Day's 2023 year. Like, they're all honestly really well done, and that yet again is the same situation with this figure because we have a very nice species, very nice sculpt, and a pretty nice paint job overall, which is a win all around as far as what I can see on this one. And yes, yet again, Collect Day has applied that nice new dark wash that they've been applying to their figures this year, which I love because again, it just amps up the realism of the paint job. And they've done another good job as far as applying that paint job and again, that dark wash with this one because it's applied in a really subtle, very light way where it's there, it adds some nice variation of color and highlights the detail nicely, but it's not any type of like an eyesore or anything for the figure. It's not applied too thick, it's not applied too dark or anything like that. It's honestly perfect as far as the application of that dark wash, but the only way to really show you that is with a closer look, so let's go ahead and jump to that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Hadrosaurus, you can see again we have that really nice greenish tone for the majority of the face, but you can also pick up on, within that greenish tone, how nice the skin texture looks because that dark wash is applied. And look at how subtle it is. Again, something that Collect Day, has done to really impress me is how good they are at actually applying that dark wash. And I know I've been kind of harping on it the entire time with these reviews, but it's just so impressive to me how the company has used washes in the past, but I feel like they haven't used them that often, and how they've just kind of jumped into it this year, full force, I would say, and they're just incredibly good at it, and very impressive overall as far as the actual application and knowing exactly how to apply it to each figure to make it look, honestly, beautiful. And you can see that yet again with the Hadrosaurus here. All the fine detail of the face is very nicely highlighted with that darker coloration, that darker wash, and again, makes all the cracks and crevices of the skin texture just pop in a very realistic way. We also have the beak very nicely sculpted out and painted with a grayish tone. You can see the tongue there on the inside of the mouth is painted as well, which is nice to see, and also, of course, sculpted. We also have the very nice lighter tone of color up here, kind of like almost a purplish tone or maybe even a magenta up here on the top of the snout, and that as well is really nicely, again, if my camera would focus on it, nicely sculpted and nicely painted. You can see again nice cracks and crevices as far as the texturing of the skin in that area as well. You can also see a nice lighter tone there around the eye, and the eye again is painted with a nice black and has a gloss coat to it. I like that they've lightened the area around the eye so that black eye really stands out very nicely. You can also take notice to the nostrils here in the front of the snout as well as the ear as you move back here toward the neck. As you lead down into the neck, you start to see a really large scaling here, like very large scales as you move into the neck and then down into the throat as well. Those taper off pretty quickly, but you can again see variation of color right there within those scales because you can kind of see that there's a darker green kind of creeping in and out of all of those larger scales, very nicely highlighting those as well. And you can also see a pretty smooth transition as we lead down to the underside with a nice lighter green in the throat region. As you move down here into the body, you can kind of make out the shoulder blade sort of protruding through the skin there. You can also see the nice walking motion here for the dinosaur is shown off nicely in the sculpt. You can see the kind of creasing right there back behind the arm as you move down. Really nice looking sculpt. As you move down into the foot, you can again see that almost hoof-like appearance for the front of the foot of this one, again with a nice dark coloration for the nail. And then as you move back up here, you've got a few more kind of skin wrinkles and skin creases throughout the course of the stomach. And again, you can see the nice greenish tones, but you can also pick up on that very subtle wash that's again making the coloration look very realistic throughout as you move back here into the body, and you can see all sorts of variation of scales, and it seems like every so often we kind of have like a cluster of like alternate looking scales, a little bit different from what you see with the rest of the body, and you can see that kind of throughout the course of the figure. It looks really cool. And as you move up here, you start to see some ridges picking up here, running along the spinal column. They stay pretty small as you move along. They do increase in size a little bit here as you lead out into the tail, but then decrease again as you lead down. But as you come back here, you can kind of make out the hip bone right there quite nicely. Some nice muscle definition in the thigh and calf as you move down. Nice creasing there in the joint of the knee, and you can as well make out the kneecap itself. And then as you move down, you again have a very nice looking foot sculpt with some nicely painted nails here on the rear foot. And you can see that foot is planted as the dinosaur is walking along. You can without question see again that it is definitely walking along. You can see some more nice creasing back here behind the thigh as you lead out into the tail. And I like that the tail darkens really gradually as you move out. The body itself is already kind of a darker green, but it really darkens as you move out here toward the tail. But you can see a nice, almost like a Christmassy green coloration here, leading down from the back as it stripes out the remainder of the tail. And you can also see a nice kind of curve to the tail. It doesn't curve, to side at all. It's just like a nice curve in a downward slope. There is also a nice lighter green here for the underside of the dinosaur. Pretty smooth transition as we move into that lighter green. As you move back, you do have a cloaca there. You can see a darker tone of color highlighting the cloaca. And then as you continue to move along, you have some more really nice looking scale detail here along the underside, as well as, again, that nice lighter green tone of color, very naturally applied. You're not going to see too much difference over here on the opposing side compared to what we saw on the initial side, because the dinosaur is pretty straightforward overall. Like, you can see a kind of a slight curve to the body, but it is super slight. The only real big differences that you're going to see over here would be the positioning of the front limb here. As you can see, that's kind of outstretched forward, taking a step, so you've got some nice, wrinkling and skin detail here, but you can also see the muscle definition quite nicely here in this area of the front limb here, but you can also see the foot sculpt and everything looks really good. Nice, very precise paintwork for the nail there. And you can again see that this leg is kind of trailing on this side more so than leading like we see on the initial side. All of the detailing looks just as beautiful over here. All of the paintwork looks just as beautiful over here. You can see this foot is up off of the ground again as the dinosaur is running. Actually, not really up off the ground. It looks like it's just leaving the ground, I should say. And you again have those nice stripes leading out through the tail. I like how nice and naturally those stripes are applied. They're not really strong. They're just kind of lightly applied to the course of the tail as you lead out. So overall, this is an absolutely fantastic version of a Hadrosaurus, and also I think potentially the first time I've had the pleasure of adding one of these species to my collection. So yet again, Collecta pulls off another new species to add to my collection, which this year has been absolutely loaded with, but definitely a really nice figure. Now, of course, being an Age of Dinosaurs release, it's not a huge figure. It's pretty small overall, and you can see for a length, you are looking at about, actually, let me get it right there on the snout, about 5.5 inches or around 14 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point that's absolutely going to be the back here. I'd say just shy of 2.25 inches or around 5.5 centimeters for a height. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Hadrosaurus from Collecta. And you can definitely see, again, it is pretty small, being the Age of Dinosaurs lineup. They're usually fairly small, and this fits pretty much in the exact size range that I expected it. So probably, if you are familiar with Collecta and their usual size for species like this, it'll probably be exactly the size you think it is. And to further show you that, here is the 2023 Bristonius next to our Hadrosaurus. And you can see that these two pretty much the same size. They are not far off at all, if at all. Like, they may be exactly the same size. So if we look, it looks like maybe the Bristonius is slightly, ever so slightly longer than our Hadrosaurus, but even that may be just the trick of looking at it from this angle. They may be right about the same size. And then when it comes to a figure that I've been using a lot for this year's comparisons, we have the Age of Dinosaurs Tyrannosaurus Rex, the feathered Rex here, next to our Hadrosaurus, again, further showing you basically that it is quite small, again, like you would expect it to be. We also have the swimming Spinosaurus, again, the smaller Spinosaurus that they released. They released 3 different Spinos, like all at the same time. There were 2 smaller ones and 1 bigger one, so this is one of the smaller, again, the swimming version of the Spinosaurus next to our Hadrosaurus, again, showing you that it's quite a bit smaller than the Spinosaurus. And I feel like we really don't need very many comparisons for this guy, as it's obviously in a similar size range to our Bristonius we had just shown off. But we'll do 2 more here with this one, the Borealopelta here next to our Hadrosaurus, just showing you that it's Again, a pretty similar size, obviously a little bit shorter for the Boreal Pelta, but very similar size overall. And then another of my favorites I've been using a lot for the comparisons this year, we have the Ultra Titan here from Collecta next to our Hadrosaurus for one final comparison if you happen to have this release. So this brand new 2023 Hadrosaurus from Collecta is another really nice figure and definitely a beautiful addition to the Age of Dinosaurs line. I do really quite like these smaller figures. They're very convenient. They fit anywhere. Like, you really shouldn't have much of a problem at all fitting these into your collection, even if your collection is heaping full of dinosaurs like mine is. These figures are small enough that they really don't take up much room at all, which is always a great thing for these. But I do love the larger figures from Collecta. I can't help but absolutely love the larger ones. But the Age of Dinosaurs line, again, is a much more convenient size range for collectors. If you have tons of figures, even if you have very little, it helps to continue to add figures to your collection when you purchase ones that are so small that they don't take up very much room. And again, this Hadrosaurus is absolutely jam-packed with sculpt detail and paint for its size. It has a very highly detailed sculpt, about as realistic and highly detailed as it honestly could get for a figure of this size, and pretty much contains detail that you wouldn't expect on a figure this size. So it is super, super nicely done when it comes to the detailing aspect and the fine detail overall. It just looks incredible, and they've done a good job of highlighting all of the detail on the figure, again, with a nice dark wash. But the paintwork as a whole, again, outside of that dark wash, is really nicely done. We have some nice tones of color for the figure. I think they've painted it up pretty much perfectly to kind of give it a slightly flashy look, but not overly flashy, and to highlight the snout area of the dinosaur nicely with that lighter tone. They've highlighted the eye area, again, with that nice lighter tone, giving it that nice, very realistic paintwork to the eye with that black glossy coloration. And overall, the paintwork looks really, really good, really natural, and definitely looks like the coloration I could see on a dinosaur like this. The pose as well is nice. It has some nice life to it as the dinosaur is kind of just trotting along. Looks like maybe it's just walking, or maybe even slightly jogging. Maybe it's trying to escape a predator or something like that. Or maybe it's just walking over to the watering hole. Who really knows? But it definitely looks nice as far as the pose goes as well. So as a whole, this is another really nice Collecta figure. Again, every single figure so far has been an absolute win for Collecta for 2023, and this is no exception, as this is a really, really nice Hadrosaurus. So if you are interested in picking this up, make sure you keep checking out Everything Dinosaur. Follow them on their social media accounts, and of course, make sure you follow their website as well, because that's where you would want to go to grab yourself this really nice Hadrosaurus when it comes into stock very soon. And of course, make sure you follow Collecta on their social media accounts as well to stay up to date on everything that is going on with them. And also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.